Hello, everyone. Jeff from RespawnStudios.com back with episode 2 of my Just a Taste video series. And today we will be taking a look at the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So I just want to comment to start how awesome these loading screens are. They give you like the standard messages that a lot of games have, like different tips or history about the game, but those objects, like that dragon, you can manipulate it by using the thumbsticks. So it's like detailed character models or item models. So it's very cool to see those. Have a little something to do while you wait a little bit. And it's kind of interesting to consider Bethesda going back and forth between the Elder Scrolls games and Fallout games and where they're borrowing from each other and building on each other. It's very nice. So this is supposed to be like the game of the year. At first, I have to say this opening didn't interest me. I actually traded this game in a few days just because I had so many other games and I wasn't as into this, even though I have all the achievements in the first 360 version, Oblivion. But I decided to get it back, and I have pretty much not stopped playing it since. I'm probably like 22 hours in already, in about 3 days. So you start as like this unnamed fugitive, and you're being carted with these other fugitives to be beheaded, seemingly for treason of some sort. And you might notice when you play the game for yourself, if you decide to, or if you already are and are just watching this to get my wacky commentary, I do have the brightness way up, and that's just from my experience in playing the game. When it gets to nighttime, it is pretty freaking dark, so I just like having the brightness up a bit just so I could see things better. And I actually think it makes the whole game look better. You could see some details more, and I just like it more, so that's why things might seem a little brighter than you might be used to. But for anyone unfamiliar with the series, it's basically a first-person RPG. You could do magic. It's in the sort of, I don't know what to call the style, like I guess fantasy, but I'd say like Lord of the Rings, where it has orcs and dragons and different races that way. But there's a long history with the Elder Scrolls and all of the races they have, the Argonians, the Khajiits, and all of that. There's like tiger-looking people that are the Khajiit, the Argonians, which are the lizard people. You could be different types of humans. So it's a very detailed world. There are also, I'd say, over probably thousands of books in the game that give you different backstory, and they put a lot of time into these games. Every dungeon looks different. It's just remarkable. The cities, the AI. I mean, there's still glitches, but for a game this huge, having a few glitches doesn't really hinder the experience that much. Like at this execution scene coming up, one of the guards like sort of just floats across the ground instead of walking. But when everything else is so good, you could excuse those little things, or at least I've come to be able to. And you might notice I also have the subtitles on, and that's just because, I don't know, the volume just seems kind of weird to me. Even when I played with it, having game music and dialogue and stuff at different lengths, different sets of volume, I just found it easier to have subtitles on, because usually there's noises outside of the game too, like my dog barking or other people talking in my Xbox Live party, so I just find it easier, but you can have subtitles off. You don't need to have that on if you want the more immersive experience with having almost no HUD. But that's something else, I guess I'll get into. The HUD itself was very different in Oblivion. It was a lot like Morrowind, where the bottom left had your health, stamina, and magic, I believe. And now it's very different. Your health is in the bottom middle, and the top center is like your compass, your navigation. So you see like where locations are coming up or where a quest marker is where you should be headed. And it's very different. The menu system is actually very different than the leveling up. Instead of just adding some points to stats, you are brought to this like screen of constellations, and that is like the lock picking, sneak, your standard skills. You level them up by having branched like constellation stars and choosing skills that way. It looks very nice. The inventory system is also very different, but it takes a little getting used to because it's so different from Oblivion or even Fallout, but it is better, I think, now. I wasn't used to it, and I didn't really like it at first, but now that I've grown accustomed to it, I think it is an improvement. So here's the character creation. You see all the different races, dark elves. And you could read about their affinities. Some are better with magic. Some are better with melee weapons. Some are like known for being the like stealth sort of class where they could sneak and pickpocket. So depending on what you think your playstyle might be, you might want to choose that race because they start with higher skills in those different areas. And I'm just like a tank. I just like running around and hitting stuff with swords or axes, so I chose the Imperial, which is like the standard human. The Red Guard is actually probably an even more appropriate melee class, but I'm just used to using Imperials. So you could use different presets for your characters, or you could really go in detail with all of these different things. I'm just showing you some of them. And you could be a male or female of any of them, of course. And they've added some other cool new features over Oblivion. You can now buy houses, which you could sort of have last time, but it's much better this time, I think. I mean, you could buy houses in Oblivion, but it wasn't as, I think, interesting and as in-depth as it is implemented into this game. You can get married. All of the guilds are back. The Thieves Guild, Fighters Guild, Mages Guild. There are side quests and miscellaneous quests. So there's like, it seems like there's twice as many quests as there were in Oblivion, which is crazy because that game was very long and huge. And again, it's very much the open world playstyle. You can just do the story missions and be done the game probably in like 12 to 20 hours, or you can like not even ever approach the story missions and do like hundreds of side missions and just wander around, ride a horse, shoot some like game animals like rabbits or stuff. There's giants, there's woolly mammoths. You could just explore, and you could spend like hundreds of hours without even doing the story, but still finding new content. So it's a very huge game, and there's a lot to do. So if you're into those open world games, it's sort of like I don't know. I don't know if I want to make this claim, but it's sort of like the fantasy Grand Theft Auto, though this genre was kind of there already before the open world sandbox Grand Theft Autos. Because the series started on PC. I'm just showing you some of the details, looking around. They're talking. One of the characters here actually factors into the story, but I'm not going to give any sort of spoilers other than just saying you'll see one of these guys again. And you probably, if you've seen any of the previews or commercials for the game, one of the other big things that they brought in was dragons. You can have these epic fights with dragons. And they are pretty cool because they're very big and it's just epic. Like the screen and ground shakes and your controller vibrates. It really makes it into a cool experience. There are also a lot of difficulty levels. I think there are at least 5. There's like novice, apprentice. I don't know the names of them, but basically it's like very easy, normal, hard, and very hard. So. And you could change it anytime you want. You're not like locked into one thing. Like if you're finding the game too hard or too easy, you could change it. And I guess the final big thing I'm going to touch on, since we're winding down here, there are tons of exploits. So if you don't want to put all of the time normally into just playing the game and leveling up, you want to like max out your character and then just goof around, which a lot of people are really into because this game is so open world and doing anything you want. There are a lot of different exploits in the game where you could find certain people and just keep picking the same dialogue options and keep getting, like, say, your speechcraft skill up, or keep sneak attacking someone when the difficulty is set to master, so they don't really take damage and they don't care if you keep hitting them with your sword and you get like your sneak and two-handed weapon up, for example. So there's also like an unlimited gold glitch, so there's a lot of things to do if you want to just goof around in the game as well, if you're into that. So I definitely recommend this game for anyone that's a fan of open world games, and I hope you enjoyed this episode on Skyrim. Thanks for watching.